Ladies and gentlemen, we're here today on Ball Logic to talk you through the biggest surprises in fantasy basketball this year. Are they surprises because they're playing well? Are they surprises because they've shit the bed? We've got a special guest with us to talk us through this and a whole lot more right after this. Good afternoon and welcome back to Ball Logic. I am your host this afternoon, The Horse, and joining me is not Braino. He's tied up with work, but we've picked up someone from the Memphis 905 from the G League. It's Mattix. How you doing, mate?
Oh, just in my element. Could be the Memphis Hustle even.
Memphis Hustle, is it? Yeah.
Yeah, excited to be here. Disappointed that I'm at work and not enjoying a Milton Mango like Kingy is beside me. I'm a very jealous man right now.
Unreal. And from the OldManSquad, Kingy's back with us for another Wednesday. How you doing, mate?
Good, mate. Are you a better host than Braino? I think, do we put it to a vote? Maybe. Braino might get the arse after this show.
No, not a chance. I'm happy to be Timu Braino when it comes to hosting. But ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoy the content, whether you're a long-time listener or first-time listener, like, subscribe, bell. But also, if you're listening to us on audio, the 5-star review helps us get into the ears of those that love a little bit of banter along with their NBA fantasy knowledge. So as outlined at the top of today's show, we're going to go through three each of the biggest surprises that we have in fantasy basketball this year. And Matrix, you've got the honors of kicking us off, mate. Who are you going with at number one?
Well, I don't have any data from last year to target for this guy because he's a rookie. It's Cedric Coward. And yeah, target guy was right. This guy's the next MJ. He's currently the 64th ranked player, shooting 52%, 90% from the line, and all off the bench through the first 11 games of the season. I'm trading for him in dynasties. I'm lucky enough to have some stocks in him in some leagues. I know I get made fun of a little bit due to my eye test and vibes, but this guy just looks like an elite baller. And I think the Grizzlies were obviously high on him when they traded Bane and also traded up to get Coward. I don't think anybody could have anticipated how good this guy just looks. Like, rookies just don't do this.
From memory, King, he sat out most of his college campaign last year, didn't he? And came in with a bit of an injury history, but has so far exceeded expectations.
Yeah, I think he did. I'm not huge in the college scene, but I do recall that listening to all the preseason stuff and dynasty stuff that, yeah, there were some concerns over his health. And that's often why guys like this fall in real drafts. Michael Porter Jr. was a very good example of that. So it happens, but he's looked really good. And I think playing on a Memphis team that doesn't look very good, it's probably helped him. They've just sort of gone, okay, well, you might as well play minutes because no one else is doing anything. And he was good again tonight. He didn't shoot the ball well, but he had 11 points, 5 assists, 3 rebounds, 2 steals, 2 blocks. So poor shooting aside, everything else was really good. So, yeah, he has been surprising.
Matrix, you as a Memphis man, before we move on to Kingy, we know that they've got Clark, they've got Edie, they've got players to return from injury here. Is he one of those ones that you can afford to hold on to? Are those minutes going to stick? Or do you think this is an opportunity to hold on him for a little bit longer and then try and sell high?
I think he's just too good and it is going to stick. I think he's already better than somebody like KCP, although he's been playing good and his leadership's needed. But, yeah, I do think that they will find a way to get these guys out on the floor. To be honest, Cedric Coward's already better than Brandon Clark. Zach Edey's playing a completely different position. You've got Jalen Wells that hasn't been fantastic. I don't think it'll be too long until they find a way to start Cedric Coward. But if not, him heading up and doing a lot of, I suppose, the dominating once the starters go off is, working. So
I like it. Kingy, who have you got to top us off with your three that you've got this afternoon?
Who will we go with first? Let's start with Ryan Rollins. Someone that I just like talking about him, so I thought I'd bring him to this show as well. He's someone that I've had in dynasty leagues for 3 years, 4 years. So I've had him for a long time. I've been waiting for this. he just hasn't had an opportunity. I think he was with the Wizards initially, or maybe Golden State. I think he was drafted.
He was with the Warriors. Yep.
Yeah. So he just hasn't been in the right opportunity or in the right place at the right time. And I think coming into the season, I was hopeful in terms of an opportunity for him. And then obviously the injury to Kevin Porter Jr. meant that he was thrust straight into that starting position basically from opening night. So he's exceeded even my expectations. I was cautious but hopeful, and currently he's like a top player, I think, in nine category leagues. Averaging, what have we got? We've got his numbers here: 16.5 points, 5.5 assists, 3.5 rebounds, almost 2 assists, and just over 2 threes, shooting 51% from the field and 83 from the line. So nothing to really complain about there. The question, of course, is what happens when Kevin Porter Jr. comes back eventually. Yeah. And fair question, because he was the opening or the starting point guard to open the season. So we don't know if the mindset has shifted there in Milwaukee. But I think they have to find a way for him to play minutes, much like with Coward there. He's done so much that they have to find a spot for him. So even if he goes back to the bench, I'd like to think that Rollins can sort of maintain not necessarily top 40 value, but top 60, top 70 rest of the season, which even that range makes him a breakout.
100%. Currently ranked 40 overall. I'm kind of with you, Kingy. Really, really like his game. And for me, I think that he continues to start. Kevin Porter Jr. has been known to be a bit of an ISO scorer in the past, whereas Rollins, while he can score off the dribble and get his own shot, he has an ability to get his teammates involved a lot better than what KPJ does. So for those that have him, enjoy the ride. This is awesome at the moment. For me, my first one that I'm going to talk about is AJ Mitchell from the OKC Thunder. It's been unreal to start the year. We're talking a bloke that's scoring at 46% from the field, 93 from the line, 17 points per game, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, 1.8 steals as well per game. With injury comes opportunity. J-Dub being out has obviously opened the door for some more ball handling at the OKC Thunder. Unfortunately, Topic with testicular cancer, he's on the recovery trail. All the best to him as well. But 59th overall so far, Matrix, and we're week 4 into the NBA season. This guy wouldn't have been drafted in 200-man leagues to start the season, and now he's all of a sudden inside the top 60.
No, and he's kind of ramped up his minutes as they come along as well. He's just been a really integral part of what OKC does. And even in those games that Shea struggled, and of course there's been days that Chet struggled, OKC seemed to have this next man up mentality. We saw yesterday Isaiah Hartenstein with the 33 and 19. Like right. They do just have this next man up mentality. He's shooting the ball really well, shooting it 13 times a game. And getting a couple counting stats, whereas really I probably wasn't anticipating the counting stats. Always been somebody that can, sort of light it up on occasion, but they've just got these guys, like whether it be AJ Mitchell, whether it be Isaiah Joe, Aaron Wiggins, they've just got guys that can get buckets. And AJ's the one that's on the heater and getting the 28 minutes a night at the moment. Ride the wave.
You a fan of his game, Kingy?
He's been impressive and like you said, wasn't really on the radar coming into the season. Again, with a lot of these players that we're covering here, injured players coming back will have some sort of an impact. So the Thunder have Lou Dort, Jalen Williams, Aaron Wiggins currently out as well. Kendrick Williams, who obviously isn't a sizable part of that rotation, but often gets 12, 15 minutes.
He does.
But in saying that, I think AJ Mitchell has probably established himself ahead of those guys. Not Jalen Williams, but those other names in terms of scoring, even if it is just because they're obviously a very defensive heavy team. They've got a lot of very good wing defenders, rim protectors, but you need to score outside of Shea. Who is their second scorer? Like you could argue maybe it's Chet some nights, maybe it's Jalen Williams some nights, but maybe it's AJ Mitchell on other nights.
Sure.
So, I do think that he's probably moved ahead of the player that was being viewed in this role, and that was Aaron Wiggins coming into the season. He's ahead of him at the moment. So you just roll with him and see what happens. Maybe it cools off and he becomes a drop at some point, but for now, you just have to roster him.
And for those that don't support the OKC Thunder or have a gripe against them, yes, he has signed on a multi-year deal, which is, I think it's only $3 or $4 million a year for the next 3 or 4 years. So just unreal play there by the OKC Thunder. Matrix, who's your next man up?
Norman Powell. Honestly, when I was glazing him in the preseason, I didn't really think that he would be flirting with this top 25 value. I thought he was somebody that, could be top 40 while, Hero was out for extensive time. Right now, you look at the rankings and, look, obviously I'm not saying he's a better player than all those, but right now he's ahead of guys like KD, Jalen Johnson, Şengün, and you always say things in the preseason, and we had probably a 10, 12-week preseason to chat about all these guys. His usage will increase and his minutes will increase. But his minutes went from 26 to 31 straight off the bat. And his usage went from 25% to 29%. Norm's impacting wins in fantasy and wins in the league. The Heat are third at the moment. He could be considered a sell high. With Tyler Hero to come back at some stage. But, man, for the amount of draft capital that you probably spent, because I'm presuming there hasn't been a transaction involving him yet. He's been too good to really trade. I'm pretty happy to ride the wave. Tyler Hero might come back, might not be 100% when he comes back. They've been going well. I think that there's a real pathway for him to be top 50, top 60 at the end of the year as well. And you're getting way better than that at the moment. So,
yeah, for sure. I was one of his knockers to start the season, and I'm happy to admit very wrong on this one. He has been unreal for the Miami Heat. Kingy, anything to add before we move on to your next one?
No, I think I agree. He's certainly, again, probably exceeded expectations without Tyler Hero there. But, look, I guess you would put this in the sell high category, but like you said, what are you going to get back for him? I don't think anyone's going to give you a top 30 or top 40 player for him. So you just enjoy this, and then he probably settles back into that top 60 range once Hero is back and Bam is back. Jaime Jaquez surely has to cool off at some point. So I'm with you. I think you just, unless you can get a top 30, 40 player, I'd just hold him and ride this out.
For sure. Who have you got next, Kingy?
I'll leave him till last. So let's go with Julius Randle next. And I was umming and ahhing. I came up with 2 names for this show pretty quickly. And then my third one was a little bit undecided. I had a few to choose from, but I went with Julius Randle just because I feel like no one's really talking about him. I'm certainly not. I don't think I've mentioned his name much on my shows at all, other than doing box score recaps and things like that. But quietly, he's putting together easily the best season of his career.
Easily.
Minnesota are playing well. They don't really have any injuries. Anthony Edwards missed a little bit of time there, but other than that, they've been pretty healthy. So there's no reason to think that his role is going to change. I guess it's the part or the elements of what he's doing that are potentially unsustainable are the defensive stats, because he's averaging 1.3 steals and he's never averaged more than about 0.6 or 0.7 throughout his career. He's not known as a defender. So that's probably going to come back closer to, but even if you can get 1 steal a game from him, I think you would count that as a win. The assists, look, I mean, we know the assists are real because he's been a 5 assist player in the past. He's sitting at 6 at the moment. The rebounds, we know they're real. Percentages, that's the other one. He's shooting 54% at the moment, and generally he's sort of in the mid to high 40s. So there is enough doubt here, I think, to think that he probably comes back to the pack and ends up as a top 60 or 70 player. And at the moment, he's a borderline first rounder. So a little bit like that Powell discussion, though. I think you could consider moving him, but I don't think anyone's going to give you a top 30 player for Julius Randle, because we've we've seen such a big sample size of who he is that I think we're going to view this as an outlier. So just enjoy it. And maybe he does continue, maybe he doesn't. But at the moment, I don't know where he was going in drafts. Do we know that? Probably in the
mid-60s.
60, 70 range. So at the moment, he's returning a ton of value. And even if he comes back in those other categories, he's still going to settle in that range. So I think he'll be fine.
Across the first 4 weeks of the season, he is perhaps one of the most improved players when we're talking fantasy basketball. Currently ranked at number 11, so just inside the top or the first round when we're talking fantasy basketball. I'm with you, though, Kingy. I don't think this sticks. Matrix, anything to add?
Yeah, I've always kind of been a bit of a Julius Randle truther, just taking him and being okay with the deficiencies in his game. But he does seem to have tidied that up a bit. His role has changed a little bit despite the minutes not just being that little bit more of a facilitator, shooting a few more threes. He just looks involved and engaged and bought into what the Timberwolves have had. Obviously I'm not under the impression that he's going to, be a top 10 player at the end of the year, which he's flirted with. But you got him at 60. He could easily be a top 40, top 30 guy at the end of the year. And I do wonder if you are trying to sell him, you're not getting a top 10 guy for him. Again, it's kind of one of those guys that you just enjoy while you've got him, unless you're really trading with somebody that's, for an injured gun or somebody like that with if you're doing quite well, which you probably are if you've got Julius Randle, and then you're trading down to somebody who's really struggling and, going to throw a bit of a dart throw. I do just think that that's sort of the play with Julius. So.
For sure. My next player here is someone that probably hasn't been going so well. And when we're talking biggest surprises, I think most of us expected Derek White to be a top 30 player, even less, top 25 player to start the year. Given no Tatum, they traded away a lot of their pieces. It was going to be him and Jaylen Brown. And he has started the season off pretty ordinarily. He's brought it back the last couple of games, but shooting 33% from the field so far this year, less than 14 points per game. Still getting his 2 steals and 1.2 blocks per game, Kingy, but he's getting 3 more shots per game and he's making 0.5 less per game. He's really struggling with the added attention, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. But this is a fairly sort of clear-cut case in terms of what is it that's dragging him down, and it's, as you said, everything else is good. It's just the percentages. So,
yes,
and we were, I guess, somewhat expecting that, given there was no Jason Tatum, no Kristaps Porzingis, no Drew Holiday. It's him and it's Jaylen Brown. So defenses can lock in on him, which he's never been in that position before. So I think we were expecting a reduction from that sort of 45-ish range where he's been hovering for the last few years, maybe down to 40, 42. But he's shooting at 34%. So he's going to turn that around at some point. But the steals are there. He's averaging a career high in steals, career high in blocks, career high in assists, I think, as well. So everything is good except the shooting. And I was just pulling up the box score from today.
He was better today.
Better today, yeah. They lost to Philly on a Kelly Oubre tip-in, but
yuck.
Yeah, Derek White. Yeah, so again, 35% today. He had 18 points, 7 assists, 2 blocks, 5 rebounds. So everything is good, 4 threes. It was just that the fact that he shot the ball 20 times and only hit 7 of them, whereas in the past he'd be shooting the ball maybe 14 times and hitting 6 of them or something like that. So I do think this is one that we'll see turn around, but then there's also that discussion, which is completely separate, of does he get shut down at any point? Boston aren't really tracking too well. So yeah, maybe we get to a point where they do pull the pin. I don't think we're there yet, but who knows what's going to happen in February, March, April.
Something to keep an eye out for. Matrix, anything to add?
Yeah, he's moved up 20 spots in the last week, so I think he's maybe trending in the right direction, despite being disappointing for those taking him early. I do think maybe a bit of a buy low candidate if you are in one of those positions where you are tanking that sort of that field goal percentage. Like, I probably expect it to be in the late 3s towards the end of the year. Look, a little bit of a buy low. His counting stats are great. Like, just throw some darts out there and see what you can get with some frustrated owners. Because there are some people that overcapitalize. Like, I even saw him go as early as late second round, which was madness. But it was just people being super high on Derek White. Maybe they're frustrated and want to throw their toys out of the cot. So, a bit of a buy low candidate because he's trending in the right direction to be a top 40 player again.
Yeah, nice. Who have you got for your last player, mate?
Grayson Allen. Jalen Green might not play for 5 to 6 weeks after re-aggravating his hammy. And he's currently top 40. A lot of people dropped him, and honestly, probably rightfully so, with the way that Jalen looked elite in that first game. 29 points, just come out on an absolute tear. And then, re-aggravating that hammy 7 minutes into his second game. But look, Grayson Allen needs to score. He's now the current Suns record holder for most threes in a game. I'll tell you what, that'll be brought up at some trivia nights in the next 10 years.
Why not?
But look, probably will or can provide that top sort of 50 value till Green's back. But honestly, will drop a lot after that. Hey, look, he surprised me, and that's the name of the episode. I don't know if you guys are playing Supercoach, but he's in my team. It was surprising, and I didn't have many stocks of him, but glad that there is a little bit out there because I'm just enjoying the ride of another ex-Grizzly, so you can tell I'm a bit of a homer.
No, unreal. Every player's played for the Grizzlies at some stage, though, haven't they?
All the ones I've mentioned.
You got any stock in Grayson Allen, Kingy?
No, I don't. No, he wasn't really, I guess, on the radar. Well, he was sort of on the radar coming into the season, but I think 2 years ago he had that breakout, and then last year he slowed a little bit. He's been phenomenal to start the year, and even harder probably to pull off a sell high on Grayson Allen because we know exactly why he's doing what he's doing, and that is Jalen Green is out. But look, I wouldn't be surprised if Jalen Green is gone for 2 months here. I know they've said reevaluated in sort of 6 weeks, but that was a bad hamstring injury. I mean, we've seen enough footy and stuff like that if you can't walk off the field or the court unassisted with a hamstring injury, that's not a good sign. It means it's a pretty significant tear. So, I mean, it will come down to the franchise and how they want to treat this. We know that the NBA doesn't necessarily treat soft tissue injuries the right way in all instances. So, I mean, do they rush him back? I don't know. But, if as long as he's sidelined, I think Grayson Allen is going to be one of, if not the biggest beneficiary.
For sure. Who's your last, Kingy?
Jalen Duren for the Celtics. And this is probably, I guess we're considering this a breakout, even though he's been pretty good for the last couple of years. This is sort of what I think I was expecting from him last season, maybe not to this level, but I remember 12 months ago sort of having discussions around Jalen Duren and saying just the fact how young he is, I think is one of the biggest takeaways. He's only just turned 22, so he's still younger than a handful of rookies this year. And he's been around, like this is his 4th year in the NBA. So I think this was always coming, some sort of a breakout, just given how young he was when he came into the league. But the eye test, all of that sort of stuff was really positive. And the question was just, can he figure it out on the defensive end? And he has to some degree. We were always a bit cautious. I don't think we wanted to sort of put him in this basket of being an elite rim protector, 1.6, 1.7 blocks. That's not going to happen. But if we can get 1.1 blocks, 0.9 steals, like I've always said, around 2 combined steals and blocks for Jalen Duren would make him a top 40 NBA fantasy asset. And currently he's a top 20 player, I think. And I actually don't really see any reason that's probably going to be the swinging category, that those defensive sort of blocks and steals, because I think he can probably average 18 to 19 points, and he's a good rebounder. He's built like a brick shithouse. He's so big.
Yeah.
For a 22-year-old, you wouldn't want to come across him in an alley because he is a massive human. So his ability, as he learns to use his size a bit more, because he is a little bit undersized. I feel like he's only about 6'10". 6'10". So a little bit undersized, I guess, height-wise for a center. But he reminds me a lot of Andre Drummond in terms of just boxing out and creating space to get those boards. And so once he actually finishes growing and figures things out, he is going to be a pretty dominant center, I think. And so it just comes down to how many blocks can he get. But he's been quietly very, very good, and I think could be a top 30 player rest of season.
For sure. This one will hurt Charlotte Hornets fans. He was drafted by Charlotte a couple of years ago, where they took him and they took Mark Williams back-to-back, and then they traded off Jalen Duren on draft night. So, yeah, that one's going to hurt, but Detroit will be very happy with their man at the moment in the middle, currently ranked 24 overall. My next player, our last one that we're going to talk about, is a man that was ranked outside the top 100 last year, and perhaps alongside Julius Randle's the biggest improver in fantasy basketball this year, and that's Alex Sarr from the Washington Wizards. So even though we've only got a small sample size this year, we're going 52% from the field, 72 from the line. He's hitting a 3 a game, 18.5 points, 8.5 rebounds, 4 assists, 3.3 stocks per game. And this is up right across the board. So his field goal percentages have gone up. It was 39% last year, 52% now. 74 from the line now, 67 last year. He's gone up 5.5 points per game, up 2 rebounds, up 2 assists, up 0.2 of a steal, and up a block per game. Are these numbers going to stick? Not so sure, but when you're talking about the 19th ranked fantasy basketball player that we have at the moment, and most definitely the keys to the number 5 spot at Washington, and they're going to pump time into him, Matrix. For those that took a flyer on him in the 80s or 90s, wherever he was getting chosen, they'd be stoked with this. 85 on ESPN, 83 on Yahoo. He was getting drafted out in the preseason.
Yeah, I took him absolutely everywhere last year. And then probably what I saw last year, even towards the end of the year, I didn't see him progress like this. So I sort of let him slide past me at where he was getting drafted. But I regret it. Of course, I watched him a lot in that 1 year that he played with in the NBL, and the guy's an absolute beast. So look, I don't know if being, or I suppose playing for such a poor team like Washington, he can keep these percentages going. But I do think the counting stats and the elite blocks, and that's probably what I was impressed about him most when I was watching him as a literal kid play. His defense was so good. His blocks were so good. And despite being a little bit undersized, I think the NBA is the perfect spot for that. Like, there's not that sort of bully ball. And, we're not talking, 90s and 2000s where there is Shaqs and blokes like that playing in the middle. It's these little skinny guys like this that are getting blocks and playing well. I think his game's perfectly suited. He's starting to live up to where he actually got drafted. And look, top 20 might be a bit of a stretch, but I tell you what, you're getting elite value. And if you're looking in some dynasty leagues, I would maybe be trying to get some stocks in Alex Sarr.
Kingy?
He's been very good. Yeah, it's that was always the question coming into the season, was what were those percentages going to look like? And I think we were all unanimous in thinking that he would be better than last year. I mean, a center that shoots 39%, you're not going to last in the NBA. So he had to get better, and he probably has overachieved in that area to this point. He's at 52%, I want to say. Yeah, 50, roughly 52%. So that probably does come back closer to 50 or 49, but even that is a win. I mean, that's 10% better than last season. And everything else is there. The blocks are there. The rebounds are there. He can hit threes. But he doesn't just fire away. I think a few of these centres are actually starting to or learning to be more selective. We're seeing it with Wemby as well. His 3-point quantity, I suppose, is not as high this year, but the quality is better. So I think we're seeing these guys be a bit more selective, and Alex Starr falls into that bucket. So, yeah, unfortunately, I don't have him anywhere, but there's no reason that he can't finish as a top 50 player purely just because there's no one else in Washington that's coming for his minutes. So as long as they're willing to put him out there and play him, then, yeah, I think it's all systems go.
For sure. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do us. There are our 9, I guess, breakout, our players that we think are doing well or not so well that we think are relevant to talk about so far in the NBA fantasy season. We are only into week 4, so it is only a small sample size, but regardless of whether you're going to ride them high, whether you're going to try and sell high, whether it's someone like Derek White that you're going to try and throw a few feelers out and try and buy low on someone like that, this is what we aim to try and do for you at home. Just bring a different perspective to the NBA fantasy game. Kingy, where can the people at home find you, mate?
Generally on Twitter. So Adam King 91 is me. All of my shows are there. I do some written stuff over at RotoWire, but most of that I tweet that out as well. So yeah, if you follow me, you'll find everything.
Matrix, if people want to know where to find you.
Instagram, Twitter, X.
That's right.
On the Ball Logic podcast every week. You'll find me, drinking plenty of beers and talking lots of shit. So
wouldn't have it any other way. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do us for today. If you haven't yet, thumbs up, like, subscribe, bell. If you're listening to us on audio, the 5-star review helps us out and helps the show out very much. Would appreciate it if you could give us a little thumb there. But for today, I'm the horse, Matrix and King. It's been a pleasure, and we'll catch you next week. Peace.